Good morning, Sif, and welcome to the Big Set.
Thank you so much, Banyaji. Thank you for having me. Good morning, my fellow panelists here. Good morning, our dear listeners. It's been quite a while. I'm happy to be here, and I hope you're all doing fine.
All right. Good morning, Musat Kwatanse, and welcome to the Big Set.
Good morning, my brother Banyaji. Good morning to comrades here in the studio, and good morning to our dear listeners. Musat Kwatanse, the political antidote, elected General Secretary for the Shema District Youth League, who is now a member, official member of the NRM National Delegates Conference. I want to first of all congratulate my party NRM for the exercise concluded yesterday of nominations of all aspiring MPs who are ready to run for the NRM flag. And I want to call upon those who picked the forms, please return them and also go on ground, do mobilization. Don't wait for the final hour to start compromising the Electoral Commission and causing chaos in our genuine supporters. Otherwise, I wish you nice deliberations.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Thomas Salit, and welcome to the Big Set.
Good morning, Mr. Wesige. I'm happy to be here.
It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while.
How are the students? How is university?
We are okay. We've just finalized the marking and we are soon releasing those results for the students.
Yes.
Definitely, we give some retakes for those that don't understand the simple economics concepts, but generally, work is okay.
Isn't it bothering that an economics graduate like myself can leave university after rigorous training and I cannot create my own economic model or build an economic theory that can be implemented and economic changes is made, and the teacher is doing a good job there?
They are doing a good job. It is enough that you pass through an economics class. It is good when we have people in society who can interpret economic models. Not everyone is going to be an economic practitioner or expert out there, but when the models are released and the statistics are released and we have people in society who can understand and interpret,
that's good enough.
That's good enough.
All right, welcome, Mr. Thomas Salita. Good morning, Peter Mpaka, and welcome to the Big Set.
Good morning, WestJ, and good morning, our dear listeners. WestJ, this morning, I want to congratulate the state of Israel for...
They should see people's faces.
Yes, I want to congratulate Israel because I think we are now, it's now in black and white what the target has been, because we've been seeing the people of Gaza really suffering for a long time. But the issue has been Iran. So I want to congratulate Israel for building up itself and touching the real issue. And I think once Iran...
What is the real issue?
Iran is the real problem in the Middle East. And I think once Iran is destabilized, some of these rebel groups, the Houthis, the Hamas and others, the Hezbollahs are going to be crippled. They are going to be crippled. They're going to be crippled, and then finally we may have some peace or a semblance of peace in the Middle East.
Okay.
So it's one of my greatest comments, and we pray that finally Israel may be at peace and the whole world may be at peace.
You had a National Delegates Conference where a New York National Executive Committee was elected. It was a closed out from the media, and literally all other members of the party, only a few selected, 127 of them made it to the Leadership Institute at Kamocha. And you had an election where you literally had the entire group fall back into the leadership of the party. How did that go, and what does it mean to you as a member of that party?
We still have confidence in the leadership of our party, but you should also be aware that our party constitution still stipulates that exact number of delegates. And we still have challenges in court because there is a group of people who took the NUP and its constitution into court, and we still have that battle to fight and win. So I think if it wasn't for that case, maybe amendments were going to come up, and then would have an open amendment on who the delegates should be, because we are still running a constitution of a 3-month-old party at that time. So we were wishing that such court cases be dispensed, and then we can be able to have enough delegates, enough representatives, because now we have district chairmen in all districts. We have district formal party structures. We have constituency chairmen in all constituencies with their structures. We have structures of special interest groups, especially by mobilization. So one would say that people like the district chairpersons, finance secretaries, general secretaries at districts, publicity secretaries, and maybe the mobilizers themselves would be part of the delegates conference. But we think that now that this has been done, we go by it and wait to see. Maybe in the next 5 years, that amendment, we may defeat the court battles, the constitution issues, and then make amendments and have a wider delegates conference. Banyaji.
All right, welcome. Good morning, Edgar Mtunsa, and welcome to the big set.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Nyaji. Thank you so much for seeing me today. I think the week has been so far very good. However, I am disappointed. My brother here is even congratulating Israel. That has been the most brutal force and evil force perhaps of our lifetime.
But isn't it the embarrassing of a nation like Iran that your generals will be eliminated one by one when and how Israel wants, and all that you do in retaliation is shoot aimless bombs with no repercussion? How weak is Iran?
Yes. Actually, I think the problem there is a little more complicated. Of course, Iran definitely is somehow weak, and it's caused the lack, I think, geographical support within that area. Just like how you remember how we saw the Abraham Accords that really did fail. But I think that beyond that, we really need to understand how evil this Israel force has been, and you cannot congratulate them on anything. They are occupying Gaza, they're occupying the Golan Heights, they're occupying the Sheba farms, they're occupying all area, they're in Syria, they're all over the place. So it has been such a...
Yesterday...
What do you mean by according to the Bible for a state that didn't exist until 1950?
No, according
Says
to the
who?
Bible, you see, Edgar is trying to stimulate my pastoral skills, and I didn't want to quote the Bible. I didn't want to quote the Bible, but
yes.
From the book of Genesis, when the world was created and when time began, the Bible teaches us that that land belongs to Israel. And after you remember the prophecy, you see. So let's go political.
It's
so
based on belief.
No.
If I don't believe, then it doesn't make any sense.
The Israelites believe so. That's why they are fighting.
You see,
And the pastors like me believe so, and that's why I'm congratulating.
So that is how small
Mr.
those
Israel.
people are.
Mr. Banyaji, this is not up for debate. The UN already recognized for Palestine, it proposed a two-state solution. Israel did not exist as far as we're concerned until 1947. So what are you talking about with the Bible? You can't discuss issues of belief. So are you saying if we believe as Ugandans that Uganda, that maybe Kenya and whatever was our country
Uganda.
because our ancestors told us so, that becomes a fact? So you cannot argue such things. We think to be very barbaric of us.
But also,
So
I saw the permanent representative of Israel in the Security Council, and this is purely meant to defend the people of Israel against an existing threat by Iran and its allies.
Mr. Banyaji, I think that defense of indeed was by an Israel official, but I think it's nonsense. You cannot say defend against the people that you've been occupying. What do they expect? You cannot just want Israel. The problem with Israel is that it didn't exist. So you're trying to force existence, but not just existence, it's trying to also force having all these Arab nations around it almost become Israel. So when those people have been going against them, trying to fight them, you cannot say those people have been evil. It has been Israel that first occupied to start with.
Okay.
All these people, like for instance, some people have been are trying to go against the October 7th incident. They forget that Israel and all these problems didn't just start on October 7th. They were all over the place. There was occupants before that. So the problem has always been Israel, and now it's trying to again kill those people who have been opposing its bullying.
Okay.
It's very unfortunate.
We stop for a break. When we come back, we'll be right into a discussion this morning. Don't touch your radio. because the best is yet to come on Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM. Good music, good friends. Good morning.
It's tough. It's bold.
Past 9 o'clock on Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM. Good music, good friends. My name is Wesige Banyaji. Cruise TV is where you can watch all that is happening right here in Plot 12, Motilen. But if at all you're a business owner, don't forget that you can take chance and advertise with us at very discounted rates. Don't wait for November when we are switching with what you sell or provide to the radio airtime. You can walk in and get space for advertising for very little money. Now, our topic of discussion this morning is already in our social media handles, 912 Cruise FM on X and 91.2 Cruise FM on Facebook. The discussion is centered on the financial year budget, 2025-2026. 72 trillion is our estimated budget, and 33.18 trillion is going to be mobilized domestically by the Uganda Revenue Authority. That means about 39 trillion is the deficit that we have, which will go into borrowing both domestically and from concessional loans from outside Uganda. What does this budget mean to you? A couple of sectors took definitely the lion's share. We know that infrastructure, those are roads and all that, took about 2.2 trillion. Agriculture, 1.86 trillion, 430 billion for tourism. Health, 5.87 trillion, and then PDM was allocated about 1 trillion shillings, and education, 5.4 trillion Ugandan shillings there. What does the budget mean for you and I? Growing up, would listen to the budget speech and watch the budget in the 90s and the early 2000s, until late when Ugandans seem to be, incomplacent about this and they don't care and they don't follow. But this affects everyone. Thomas Salita, the budget is here. What should Ugandans expect? The finance minister painted a very rosy picture. We are growing literally at good rates, about 6-7%, about there. And public debt is definitely skyrocketing. So would ask, are we growing at a very high cost of public debt? What does the budget mean for you? And as an economist, which picture can you paint for an ordinary listener?
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wesige. Generally, the statistics are good. The ordinary Ugandan should. I'm going to talk first as the statistics are, and then I'll bring in the technicalities as we go into deeper debate. The budget on paper is good. The country is growing. Ugandans. Country growing means GDP. GDP means the value in monetary terms of all goods goods and services that are produced in the country is expanding. So whichever economic activity you're doing out there, and as long as it has a monetary element into it, it is computed into that figure. And what the statistics are showing is that Ugandans are engaging more and more into the money economy. That's what that GDP figure means. So currently it is about 220 trillion. An expansion, of course. In the budget speech, the minister told us that the economy more than tripled since 2010, when the Vision 2040 started. So it's all good. It's all good statistics. The government is congratulating itself for tripling the size of the economy. For
definitely there are good figures on the life expectancy
and
the inequality, because we know that those that are involved in subsistence agriculture or the subsistence economy have decreased from 69% in the financial year 2020, 10 and 2011 to about 33% in the just previous financial year. There is a poverty reduction increased. I think the figures are beautiful if you go by the statistics, but do Ugandans feel the translation in their pockets? Because eventually, a Ugandan would think the budget is as good as, do I have some money in my pocket? Do Ugandans have money?
Exactly. Ugandans don't have money from... from personal experience anyway, and what you look around.
Yes.
For example, to start with that very figure of reduction in poverty, government is using the lower threshold of poverty of $1 a day. But with the coming of the Sustainable Development Goals, the measurement of poverty internationally has moved away to now $2. So if you cannot spend $2 a day, you are extremely poor, according to UNDP and other international bodies that track poverty. So if you're to go with that higher threshold, we have about 60% of Ugandans poor.
Okay. Yes. Let me bring in Peter. And the reason is he talked about the fact that Ugandans don't have money in their pocket. But let me get you the statistics. Government made investment to a tune of 1.45 trillion Ugandan shillings to Uganda Development Bank in the last 10 years. PDM has received 3.3 trillion Ugandan shillings. EMIOGA 553 billion. Youth Livelihood Program about 207 billion. Small Business Recovery Fund 100 billion. Agricultural Credit Facility 495 billion. Youth Venture Fund 12.5 billion. Women Entrepreneurs Program 168 billion. Grow Fund 824 billion. Uganda Development Corporation that deals with big time investors 1.2 trillion. This is huge money that is supposed to put money in the pockets of Ugandans. If investments are coming from government to the economy, that would literally mean that Ugandans, that woman that is in an association, must be able to have access to these resources. That old woman like my mother in Masaka, who is involved in coffee and has gotten PDM funds, must be able to feel the impact of the economy in their pocket. Isn't government doing a good job? At least you and I should be able to attest to that fact.
Government is doing a good job on paper. On paper and write down. You know, they used to tell us those questions. They used to ask us those questions. List down the 10 factors. Write down the 10. So when you're listing down or reading those ventures, it's so beautiful and so nice. But I will borrow Sarita's statement that from a personal experience, those things don't work. Because they will tell you that the money government put into this women's venture called GROW, by the time the women, these women here in Kacheka, these women here in Rwenturagara, these women in Akakodea, in Biharwe, in Rwenjeru, by the time they grouped themselves to go and pick GROW's money, they found the money was no longer even in the bank. The highly connected women, the Sifa Safis of Uganda, had already taken away the money. Those who bring the money themselves are the ones who go back door, work with the bank managers, work with the system that has brought the money, and take it back. Because for me, when I go to a hospital, and everything from the clerkship of notes, you send me to buy a book.
Yes.
Because I'm discussing for the lay people.
Yes.
I'm discussing for the because I'm discussing for the lay people.
Yes.
I'm discussing for the voters.
Okay.
To know where they should put the voters.
Okay.
To know where they should put their vote.
Yes. It's Salita.
Yeah, to come in a bit.
Vote.
Yes. It's Salita.
Yeah, to come in a bit. Somehow government deserves credit on the basis that Uganda is when we say a poor country, Uganda is when we say a poor country, it means you have large deficits, large gaps in many basic instruments of life, including infrastructure. So constructing a word at national level is a good thing. Putting up a road, putting up a school. We don't have putting up a road, putting up a school. We don't have them. We've never had them historically.
Yes.
Building when we don't have a strip to measure glucose in a patient.
Yes, I think we need to move away from that. Yes, Salita, answer that and we move on.
It's a very good one and very emotional, by the way. But in public policy,
hearing us and actually understanding us.
Yes.
Because it is the environment that has provided. How many, as per now, don't have those secondary schools? How many have already got?
What is the
How
essence
many?
of building infrastructure?
Now,
without
I am
enablers?
coming to that. Now, when you make sure that the policy is fully implemented, now like where you are seeing now over 160 to just be on a microphone talking about things you seem not to understand.
Let's substantiate his statement. What his meaning is that all Ugandans, as of now, if you want to get NRM's money, become engineers and look for those construction jobs. Otherwise, that's why you have teachers who are being paid in discrepancies.
Okay,
conclude. Now, on the very issue, I will conclude on education and then health. Now, if you look at the education, after enrolling those schools, secondary schools in all the sub-counties in the country, now government comes in to enroll teachers. And we can give credit that...
You're talking about 39 years. You're talking about 39 years of the national resistance movement.
Now, Mr. Banyaji, I want us to agree that even when you have a family plan, you don't achieve everything in 1 year. It is very impossible.
How long do you need? How long do you need as NRM to implement some of these good intentions?
It's real politics. The Big Seat on 91 Politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music.
Great music.
Great friends.
Great friends.
FM. Great music.
Great music.
Great friends.
Great friends.
We're back. It's about a quarter. We're back. It's about a quarter to the top of the year one Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM, great music. Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM, great music. Good friends. My name is Wesige Banyaji Sifa Safi Edgar Mtundsa. My name is Wesige Banyaji Sifa Safi Edgar Mtundsa, Thomas Salita, Peter Mpaka, and Musa Kwatansa with me in studio. We are talking about the final.
Debatable unless someone is looking for some other things. That is not debatable unless someone is looking for some other things. That is not debatable. We need actually for me, even if they added
budget is funded according to priorities.
that's
And
what
I
it
think
is.
an economist should have guided in this.
Actually, that's what I thought. I'm so surprised and disappointed that you were the very person who's giving that.
Sifa, please. Sifa, please.
So for me, I don't have any problem Banyaji when it comes to security. And this so for me, I don't have any problem Banyaji when it comes to security. And this is one of the sectors where we had not seen or we had very big numbers of corruption. But as we speak Banyaji, very big numbers of corruption. But as we speak Banyaji, we are seeing like some people are crediting them and other districts ahead and other districts ahead. So no one is really touched. It only becomes political when people are looking for their own things. You know, appointments and here and there. That is when you hear reason run, sijui nini. Where do these things end up? So for me, these small things that we ignore should be very important. The moment that river dries up Banyaji, there will not be production in some of these factories around. There will not be production in some of these small whatever people have small businesses that really depend on this river, name it. So when they talk of allocation in agriculture, look at also money to be used in, money harvesting rain water and all that.
Okay.
But let me
Thank
also Banyaji talk about the issue of mothers because I'm a mother. I look at the minister was talking of funds, being given, allocated, provided to improve the health of mothers. And specifically, he talked of clean and safe water. Then he also talked of parents taking children to nearby schools for free. I don't know which district in this country, because I've not really moved around that much, that has free education. Where I come from, it is not there. People have used this thing of free education here and there, but I don't know how practical it is in some of these places. So for me, if you talk of free education, make sure it is practical. People hear this as a song, but there is no single school in this country that does not, ask for parents to pay money. So it is really so touching. Then the issue of health, people talked about it, Banyaji. Yes, infrastructure is there and all that. That is a credit to government. We all know that that is very good. Something has been done. But these things that do not be looked at, for example, absenteeism of doctors, then late coming, then there is this issue of extorting. We still have doctors that extort money from patients, Banyaji. And finally, I may call them stupid mistakes that are made by some doctors, but this thing has been ignored. The other day I was listening to someone who was talking on social media, how a doctor operated. They were students. I don't know. I don't want to mention the facility, but they forgot to remove that cotton, whatever. So it was rotting inside, and the person was almost dying. And finally, he was taken back to theater and operated. So some of these stupid mistakes are a result of these students. We need those students, but do not practically do that on patients who are really vulnerable, that anytime they can lose their lives.
Thank you,
so generally, the figures are good, but let us feel it as Ugandans. They talked of cash in pockets, but is it true? Yes, the gap has reduced of the have and have-nots, the people who have money and those who do not have. But what, as a person who is listening from there, what is being done for you?
Let me bring in Edgar. Edgar, the other day, when government wants to avoid borrowing, they will definitely find mechanisms to generate money and have this revenue, non-tax revenue. We had an automatic...
Some tear gas here and there and resting position. Those have always been the challenges within that department. On the issue, for instance, Banyaji, also of health, I think we must give some credit to government. I think we do understand for sure that yes, at least they've done the budgeting. Now the problem comes with the minister. It's also the ministers who may have the problem. If the minister decided that out of the 5 trillion I'm going to get, this 5 trillion is going to buy more buildings and build more buildings, instead of buying the testing kits that my brother here was talking about, and of course that would be the mistake at that level. So Now, on this issue of Catch 22 situation, Wanyaji, it's not really a very so much big Catch 22 situation. The government has so much to do. For instance, let's look at our debt. Our total debt is actually hitting 70 trillion, of which almost 35 is domestic debt and the other one is foreign. Now, for the past almost 5 years, the foreign debt has almost been constant. However, the domestic debt has been increasing, which I think is good. That the Ugandans are maybe borrowing,
Are lending
are lending government money. No,
Yes,
wait.
are lending government.
Yes, yes.
No.
No.
Let's first debunk that on Tunisa, just in 10 seconds. You see, when government predominantly borrows domestically, what it means is that it is competing with local businessmen, because you as a businessman or as an industrialist, you're going to a local bank to borrow money, and at the same time you're competing with government to borrow that same money. So you and government, who do you think the banker will prioritize? And at the end of the day, what the banks do, they increase their lending rates.
I was coming to that. You see, still it is much more better. You know why? Because what would happen if the domestic debt wasn't increasing, the foreign debt would be increasing, and that is more lethal. They would rather increase domestic debt as opposed to increasing foreign debt. So therefore, that's why it's therefore better. So we can say they are all evil, but the other one is a better evil. But beyond that, also if you look at those dynamics that we're talking about, of the debt components within the foreign debt, we think actually now the only problem that now the government has to work on is to push the bankers, I think the banks, away from buying treasury bills and bonds, because so far, on average, Mr. Banyaji, on average, 50% of banks' assets have now been invested in treasury bills and bonds. And that's a very big problem.
Salit, I hope you understand why that happens.
Yes. No.
And it's basic, because government is risk-free. You know, someone would rather be interested in buying government bonds and treasury bills that is going to have an assured return than gamble it in the domestic market.
Actually, Mr. Banyaji, that's very basic. That one I understand. But again, there has to be a regulation on these banks. You know why? Because that is where his point comes in. The point of the ground not being fair. Because what happens is that when you allow banks to have the share that they have currently, the banks are not lending money to the people that actually need them. So the money that the banks hold is not really getting to the economy. They will instead prioritize giving it to the Bank of Uganda, like you explained. The same explanation. So the money that would have gone so much into our economy and daily to Edgar's ends up going back to just Bank of Uganda. And that's a big problem.
Let's stop for a break. When we come back right into the second hour, my question will be, in 2000, for a young man, Mark Zuckerberg in America, invented Facebook, and he's a billionaire. What is wrong with Ugandan heads? Why isn't a young man able to create something that can revolutionize the world and this economy can blow up? What is the problem? Let's stop up for a break. When we come back right into more of that discussion. Good morning.
It's tough. It's bold.
On Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM. Good music, good friends. Thank you so much for those that are still here up on the radio. We started the show at 9 and it happens every Saturday 9 to 11. What happens is we sit to talk about issues that affect you and I. My name is Wesige Banyaji. I have a social commentator and political analyst, Sifa Safi, engineer Edgar Mtundsa, who is a East African youth representative there. And also I have economist, very fellow land friend, Mr. Thomas Salita, who is a lecturer at MOBS. I have Mr. Peter Mpaka, who is a member of the National Inter Platform. He has always had admiration for General Muhoozi, even when he belongs to the National Inter Platform. I have a PLU member, Musa Kwatane. So we are talking about the national budget. Edgar, before we went for a breather, I was talking about elements of frustration by government. I would imagine what government has to go through. Having not to hurt the ordinary citizens, but also having to provide for public goods. Because if you want a road, you want gated in a place, they would have been put out, but government using it gated in a place, they would have been put out, but government using its intelligence were able to nip that in the bud. You should give them their tax.
Yes, also I will tell you that same government, Mr. Wanyaji, just last year was supposed to pay hundreds of billions in terms of interests to loans that they never got to use. That same government. So the same government that's doing some good work, the same government is doing a lot more damage and a lot more wastage. So the Ghanaians don't want to pay more for such. But secondly, look at the kind of systems that you are talking about of the EPS. So if you are going to tax citizens because you need more revenue, then bring it clearly out of, your need for that more revenue not through punishments. You don't bring a system EPS that is not intelligent, as the name suggests, that is instead dumb, that will look at roads of 70 kilometers and still be able to penalize someone for driving at 40. Very shallow systems, calling them intelligent and bringing them in ways of punishment as a punishment model, and not necessarily really looking at tax collection. That should be looking at the idea that the government is giving you value, and for that value accessing, you should earn more. The government has run out of ideas of such, Mr. Wanyaji. So like I said, they just have to get more intelligent. Currently, the policies are dumb.
Okay.
And they would solve that.
Thomas, government is obsessed with inflation. Every time that we hear the central bank governor, the projection is we must sustain the inflation in single digits. It must be below 5%. And the moment they are able to achieve that, they are home and dry. In a lay perspective of Peter Mpaka and the non-economists here, what is wrong with government going to Australia or Germany, print money, this is Ugandan shillings, and put it in the central bank, give it to Ugandans, and we are all good and happy? What is wrong with that?
Thank you. It's a very good question, Mr. Wesigi. And
Yes.
I will request that I kind of go a bit slow to really to concretize it, and that you give me an extra 1 or 2 minutes to actually explain this. One, the focus on inflation is because, first of all, okay, we need to understand what is inflation. Inflation means doesn't mean a lot of money. Inflation means that the speed at which prices increase. Every year, prices of commodities will increase. So government calculates that speed. Whenever prices increase, technically we take it to mean that money has lost value. Money is backed in the modern monetary system that was brought out by through the Washington Consensus, which dropped money is no longer international. Money is no longer backed by gold and precious metals. Money is backed by production. The more you produce, the more you're going to gain value for your money. That's why you will see a lot of emphasis on exports, tourism, because they bring, the more other people demand for your money, the more value you create out of it. So if prices increase without you increasing value of what you're producing, money loses value. That's why there is focus on inflation. So in technical terms, if let's say inflation is 5%, it means if I have 100 shillings, 5% of that 100 shillings is useless. You get it?
Yes.
The actual value of 100 shillings is 95 if inflation is 5%. So if inflation increases to 10%, now you know what is happening to the value
Yes.
of the money that you're holding. So that's why government focuses on stabilizing that inflation.
Does that mean, in fact, does that give meaning to when Ugandans say, I went to the supermarket with 50,000. Look, I don't even feel a polythene bag.
Exactly.
What is the problem? Long time ago, you would go with 50,000, literally buy the whole supermarket. Now it's impossible. Does that mean what you're explaining?
Yes, because over time, inflation increases. Even if it remains 5% for 5 years, it doesn't necessarily mean it is real 5%. It has there's an increment, an annual increment, compounded across those 5 years. So inflation is really important. Now, to bring it to the issues of borrowing, why doesn't government go and print money, like my man is saying here? Because money is backed by what you have produced. You cannot just go to Switzerland and print and then bring back those shillings. By the way, for the sake of our listeners, Ugandan shillings are produced in, the cost is in dollars, if we may need to know that. You get what I'm saying? So you need dollars to actually print
Your
the
money.
shilling.
Yes.
So how much dollars are you going to have for you to be able to produce the trillions you're saying? And we know who prints dollars in this world. So you are calling it what? Catch 22.
There was a debate. There was a debate that why, if at all we are able to produce cars, why not create a factory that produces our own money, so that we don't have to invest in dollars to go to Germany or Switzerland to print our currency. I am literally just speaking for the layperson. Why don't we just create a factory that can produce our own money, and we cut out the dollar?
Even if you do that, in fact, government has wanted to do that.
Yes,
but you can't because of value. For example, if we are to use an example maybe of tourism. So if your money, the value that is created, if tourism is the one that creates the value for your money, then who is going to demand for that shilling that you have produced in somewhere in Ntungamo maybe?
Yes.
You get it?
Yes.
Can we ask the tourists that you want to come to, can we have trust in that currency? When I buy me from USA, when I buy the Ugandan shilling, and I'm going to give you my dollars, and I get the Ugandan shilling. So, do I have the trust that the value of the dollar that I'm giving you is embedded within that Ugandan shilling that I'm getting?
Isn't that neo-colonialism of some sort? Yes, Edgar.
Actually, Mr. Wanyaji, thank you so much. The economist here, I think, has explained very well in principle, but he's also being political. The real angle here, like you stated clearly, it's just about colonialism. As you understand, so the Bretton Woods institutions, for as long as we had the IMF and the World Bank set and control these dynamics, all the economics we have to play by is just a playbook that continues to support the strength of their currency at the expense of ours. There would be no problem, like you mentioned, just have that machine being produced here. The Swiss person coming to Uganda does not so much care about how much lesser value my currency may be. In fact, he enjoys it because his $1 may become here and maybe buy a car.
Yes.
So, but the issue is, like I think what he was saying, the issue is there will be, again, even if you had a factory, you cannot go on and print money endlessly. Already so far, on some airports, you cannot find exchange rate for Uganda shillings. You cannot go with the Ugandan shillings, you just have to go with, even within the East African community, you cannot, so that's how weak somehow our currency can be.
Let me the politics. The economics, like I explained earlier, money is backed by value. So don't focus on printing the money.
The money.
Focus on creating
value. Yes.
You get it?
Yes.
It doesn't matter whichever color of paper you have.
It is colonial for you not to allow us to print our own money based on value.
Okay, let's move on. Let me have you, and then we move on. Yes.
You see, I really want to disagree a bit with the concept of neo-colonialism that you're bringing in. Me, I want to say that if you have a bad government, like we have the NRM, a very bad government, imwe abantu bahansi nihike bagerera nitima kugira ngu you don't become rich. Because there was a student in Makerere who mixed some onions of and what and created a fume and created tear gas. Why did the government completely destroy that student's project? Why didn't the government say, now that we have somebody who has invented Ugandan-made tear gas here, why don't we support him? And
yes,
there is a guy here did the white men come and stop that? There is a guy here called Nkaheza. There is Nkaheza Technologies.
The man who built a
in
chopper?
Ruti,
Yes.
the one who built a chopper. Why didn't government come in? Because you're saying production, value, come and support this man's chopper. They may say, okay, for the chopper, don't go far. Okay, let's support your fabrications and the things you're doing. And they give him $1 billion or they give him $2 billion and support his production so that he can employ more Ugandans and bring value through his works. So me, I think it is about a bad government which wants to no, it's about a bad government.
Let me have
even
in
when
Edgar,
you economists have very economists have very good ideas about how to create value, the government cannot support them.
Yes, Edgar, answer that.
Yes. I just come to that. Again, the same question, very simple. It is colonial. I'll give you direct answers to that. For instance, if in the formulation of the budget, the government has already some long-term deals, security deals with governments that control security equipment, if they already had a contract for whatever many decades we don't know, produce tear gas, there's no way they will do that. Secondly, wait, just first listen. There's a reason as why. First listen, please. Yeah. There's a reason as why. Like these things of coffee, adding value to coffee, our own industries, even Museveni knows what the solution should be, but yet he never takes action on them. So don't think that these things of politics and economics are just black and white as you see them. There is real politics, there is real colonialism at the core, that there are certain systems you can't just change because they're a good idea. You've got to play
Yes, Musa.
Yes. To my comrade, I want first of all appreciate our economist. To me, I also agree that first of all, for money to have value, one, it must be scarce. You don't just make money be abundant in the population and you
but you
as well
PLU
that the money will have value.
Yes, talking about it, PLU just the other day when you are celebrating General Muhoozi's birthdays, billions and billions of shillings were being disbursed to the economy.
Now,
and we are gearing up for the election. We know reports have been made where NRM spends trillions of shillings
now, the question,
in one electoral cycle.
The question is, if the billions have been dispersed, what have they done? Have they gone? No. Have they gone to individuals? Have they gone to secure a service? Because now here what we are looking at.
But Musa, you should also know that reports every after an election are conducted on the environment and the level of inflation, and it is always assured that inflation will increase immediately after the election, and this is created by political players like yourself.
Now the challenge comes in here. I will agree with you partly, because the challenge comes in here that every candidate, even not looking at the presidency level, every candidate including the MPs and local councils have secured their monies somewhere, and they now want to bring it back to the population. So you will find that between now to 2026 around March, there will be a lot of flow of money in the system, and that is very dangerous on the economic perspective.
I can give him information.
Yes.
Just information, not to.
Yes.
The projections for last election year,
yes,
were that the president spent 1 trillion shillings in campaigns. My point is, usually the president alone, his expenditure alone is enough to cause inflation.
Yeah, so it's enough to cause inflation.
So on that very issue, I cannot agree of the 1 trillion spent in campaigns.
Those are reports.
Of course, the reports are allegations; they don't have evidence. And so I want to note that the money can never be just printed like the way we are discussing here. I think even when we discuss that money should be just printed, that one becomes a layman's discussion. Money should always be scarce in the system for it to have value. And Mr. Wanyaji, there is a very important point I want to talk about within the budget that has been implemented by President. You know, quite often here we have always advocated that President and the NRM government should consider giving tax holidays to the local investors so that we can have more of our Ugandans bringing money and investing here in Uganda. And I want to note that in this financial year starting July, the NRM government found it paramount to give a 3-year tax holiday to all Ugandans who have more 300 million and above and feel they can invest it here. So I want to call upon all the Ugandans now. if you have your money kept, please start investing it, because the government, what you have been fighting for, giving tax holidays to you, the local investors, to create jobs for our Ugandans, so that we can have the money in the system, the chance is now here.
Okay.
I thank you.
Sifa, I want to put a question to you. Life expectancy. Yes.
People are getting too technical. And not everyone listening in is an economist.
Yes.
But for purposes of this show, some of these things are just simple and we can put them just in a layman's understanding. People are talking of using the dollar to print the shilling. Of course, that's what it is. But I mean, it is even laughable. There is something called de-dollarization.
Of the
Simply
economy,
meaning
yes.
people are trying to run away from the domination of the dollar.
Yes.
And some countries, even here in Africa, are just adopting that, including Egypt, Nigeria, Mauritius, and others. I mean, they are paying their goods from other countries using their local currencies. Why can we not copy the same? I mean, we know that much as we are using the dollar, yes, it is helping us here and there, but it is contributing to inflation in this country and other countries in Africa. So we can simply do without it. China is doing the same. You look at the economy.
Mr.
India is adopting the
Mr.
same. Look at the
Salita,
economy.
that's a good
so for
conversation.
me, exactly. So what I'm saying is, some people are talking of colonialism. Exactly, that is what is spoiling Africa. Let us also, as Africans, have a currency that can really support us economically and otherwise, showing other countries that it's not only the dollar that's economic. So,
You see,
Banyaji,
still,
let me continue first and then you add on, Peter.
that Oswire nyoko nuweshu.
Not
You
necessarily.
will agree that
Nichijiro
there are
kwa shirenya.
superpowers. Nobuyo kuba muswire kubikonkana abantu.
Not really. So you don't mind z'abantu Banyaji. But what I'm trying to say,
Yes.
some of these things, whether you're an economist or not, nibasa kutuyamba as a country.
Actually,
Let me conclude,
Get
then
the information,
You're going
please.
To, you're going to conclude.
No worries.
One, let's, you know, issues of money and whatever, and they're not emotional. It's not about being emotional. So you may talk of de-dollarization, but if you're going to require a dollar to print your currency, it doesn't matter. After that point,
But
it
you
does-
see,
just a
Mr.
moment,
Salita,
just a moment.
printing the dollar, using the dollar to
Let's-
print our, it's not cast in stone. It is not law. We can move away from the dominance of the dollar. It's an international conversation.
Yes.
Yes.
Can I?
No. Let's allow Salita. Yeah, Mr. Salita, please.
Our economist is going to guide us in this show.
And
But
I'm-
this is
And
misleading
he's
the
guiding,
listener.
but
No,
you-
he's not.
no, you're review-
If he thinks a dollar is something that came from, from
You're-
heaven that we cannot do
you're-
without it, then
you're-
I'm disappointed.
you're refusing
So for me,
technical
Banyaji, what I'm saying,
Let's please, for the
No,
good
let me
of all
conclude
of,
and then
no,
it brings in
Sifa,
his- yes.
let him give us that information, however bad you think it is. yes, Salita.
You are refusing technical information for nothing.
Yes.
So my point, and I want you to, it's not that, you know, you can't run away from the dollar. It's not that it's cast in stone. I'm only trying to show you, please, if all countries in the world are failing to run away from the dollar, then don't just talk. You get it? Yes.
Yeah, please,
Can I-
Salita. Yes.
I've explained
Yes.
that I've explained that money is backed by value. You get it?
Yes.
The value you produce is the one that is going to give value
To
for
your
you-
money,
to your
to your
money,
currency,
to your
yes.
currency.
Mm.
The current international order we are in, you get it? Especially the order of international trade. You're putting on, even the earrings you're putting on now were imported from China.
Okay, whatever. It could
You-
be
you
the
get it?
phone.
Yeah, maybe
Yes.
the phone.
Yes.
You get it?
Yes.
Maybe the phone.
Yes.
That phone, as it is transported from China to the coast in
Mombasa.
there is someone who has manufactured a very large ship that carries bombers and to secure that route. You get it? That person is the world power.
Yes.
You get it? You get it? So if he controls all international trade, all routes of international trade, that means the value even of the phone that you have in your hands is dictated by the dollar.
Yes.
You get it? That security is brought to you by, someone has secured the route that is going to bring for you goods, and therefore they are going to dictate the terms of trade.
I think we should all agree. I think we should all agree that the US, being the powerhouse of the world, it dictates certain things. And even when we wish them away,
You can't just wish it away.
You just cannot.
That's
Wait, no, Mr.
Why
Manaji.
are you
No.
misleading us
First of
with
all,
your
yes.
economists
I think
here?
on this I'll support
I'm
Sifa.
an
This one.
economist too.
Mr. Manaji,
Yes.
I support
what
Sifa.
alternative economics are you
Hey, hey,
You were talking earlier. We were talking about political economy, which was the reality that politics and economy are together.
Exactly.
We agree, but also Russia currently is completely de-dollarized. So
Exactly.
no, wait. No.
That is not true.
No.
In
Yes,
fact,
I know.
If you had said China, because the conversation in China is let's promote the yuan and let
please.
go of the dollar.
Okay, Mr. Manaji,
Yeah.
let me explain that further. Right? We know from Ukraine during that war, we have sanctions. Russia had, I think, one of the most sanctions, again, trying to allow them, disengage them from the global market and all that. In fact, they were kicked off from the SWIFT system. What exactly are you talking about? And that system of SWIFT, economically, it is the one that is talking about, that almost throughout the entire trade routes of the system, all transactions you make, even if you don't use the ship like I was talking about, there will still be some dollar cut that goes directly to the government of America, of the US, because they control the system. We already have an alternative so far already by China to that SWIFT system. So the idea, therefore, that this system, you can't wish it away, is an illusion. You can wish it away. There's already a replacement.
We are going to
There's
move
already a
away.
replacement for that
I
system.
have ended that conversation.
So-
No.
Challenge somehow?
No,
give
but
us
we
time
need,
to
we
go
need,
Yes,
we need
so-
to talk about something more
Yes, of
pertinent to
course,
our
but we have
Okay,
to
okay, yes. Okay,
conclude
Manaji.
Yes.
Okay, just on that. Sifa's point was, so we can agree that when you're going to print money has to be based on value.
Exactly.
However, that is not only guaranteed in Switzerland. You can have a factory here. Doesn't mean you will print money every single day. So that's the whole point. You don't have to
control
pay
it
a
from
dollar.
here.
It's like saying you have to pay in dollars to access a phone. No.
Are there
If that
there
phone-
demerits of printing our own money in the Ugandan jurisdiction? Are
There's
there
no-
demerits?
There are
Whether they
none.
are there or not.
There are none.
To the other
Oh.
one.
And we can discuss that order. This is why we have the World Trade Organization. So this idea that you have to bend on some rules because of some other order is an illusion.
Mr. Banyaji,
However, it's a reality currently
Okay.
because
Mr.
of the
Banyaji.
power.
But you see, in the 90s, when the US slapped sanctions on Sudan, Sudan said, well, we are a sovereign state, we can do all with the US and all. People that were going to Sudan with American software were failing. Bank systems were failing. And these are American owned. So you're saying, I can do it with the US, I can do it with your dollar, but the software is American owned and they are shutting it down.
And this is
and even your own currency cannot be transacted in the software built by the United States.
And this is why I
And
told
people
you.
have
Wait,
done it.
Banaji. This is why I told you. Those were years back. Currently, we have an alternative. We never had any alternative, Banaji. We never had any to the SWIFT system. We now do. That's the difference.
Okay, that is settled.
Dynamics have
That is
changed.
settled.
I have something here. Now, my issue here is that actually related to that, when you look at the Uganda shilling and compare it with other East African countries,
We have the weakest currency.
we have the weakest currency.
Yes.
I think that should now be the topic of discussion.
Yes, how
Why
to
is it
improve
that
our currency?
currency is weak in the entire East Africa?
Even
And-
weaker than an economy that we are almost 3 times bigger.
Exactly.
Rwanda here.
Yes.
We have a bigger, way big economy. But
Well,
Rwanda's currency
so why is
is
our
stable.
Government from Switzerland.
Exactly.
It should be
That's
added.
why.
so.
Yes,
So-
Salita.
Yeah, to come into that, the currencies are weaker based on how much trade is carried out between countries. So the currencies, by the way, maybe to even put a disclaimer, it is weaker in terms of the exchange, but over the last 5 to 10 years, the Ugandan currency has been stable.
Yes.
You get it? So all the other currencies in the region have lost value against the
The US
Uganda
dollar.
shilling, the Ugandan
The
shilling,
shilling,
even.
okay.
Eh? So to a certain extent, you may credit government on that. So having a weaker currency may not necessarily be the problem. It's not about the value in the. Sorry, it's not about the. Please,
Yes.
We have a weaker currency because of President Museveni
You
just
man.
wishing to avail himself money. You see, that's what you don't want to tell people.
Okay.
That Muhoz, when he has birthday parties, they dispense 10 billions. That money comes into the economy. When the president is campaigning, he dispenses 1 trillion
Okay.
over no value. And this is what I want to tell you, SG.
It's a 10:30 a.m. Your local time check.
Let's talk names. What's your name, people?
It's real politics. The Big Seat on 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music,
Great music,
great friends.
great friends.
All right, it's 31 minutes past 10 o'clock on Western Uganda's biggest radio station, 91.2 Cruise FM. Great music, great friends. We moving away. I have a question that I want to put to Sifa that all of us could answer. Life expectancy has improved from 63.3 years to 68.2 years in the previous year, but right away from 50.4 years in 2002. In this year alone, the prominent people we've lost, Cedric Ndedema Babu died at 50. There's a young photographer who died at 32, 33. Rajiv Ruparelia died at 35. Couple of people have died less than 50 years. And the reason is not because of President Museveni and Matia Kasaija, the finance minister, that comes to say, we've immunized all Ugandans. They no longer die below 5 years. But cancers are killing Ugandans. Non-communicable diseases are killing Ugandans. Diabetes, high blood pressure, heart attacks. Is government investing in these serious critical areas that are taking away life, even at the prime of Ugandans, prime age of Ugandans? Sifa.
Thank you, Banyaji. I want to answer this briefly in two different aspects. One, of course, life expectancy, according to the statistics, has really gone up. But if you ask me, you gave examples of Rajiv, you gave examples of you gave examples of the other photographer and others. There are quite a number of factors causing that. One being road carnage, of course, Rajiv, the other photographer and others. So you briefly talked of the EPS, which has been halted due to different reasons. But if you asked me, it was going to be something helpful to stop wastage of lives, just like that. One of the reasons is, Banya, you have people driving under the influence of alcohol and other drugs. But when people are talking about government trying to generate income, from the drivers and all that, I don't understand all this logic. So, Banyaji, there are certain things that we really cause as a country. But worse still, sometimes I look at our leaders and I wonder why. The leaders of transport associations were saying, there are certain things that have not been put in place by government and all that, yes. But if you asked me, these things should have been started at least to fix some of these things like road signs, to show the speed limits in urban areas and all that. But for them, they are saying, you halt it and first fix that. But if you look at statistics from Traffic Department of Police, they will show you that 44% of the deaths, of course, we are losing over 5,000 people per year to road accidents. They will show that 44% of these are caused by overspeeding. This is something we can do, by the way, Banyaji, we can deal with. But if they show you, I want to tell you that there was an operation somewhere and I was doing research from a certain police station that I'm not going to mention. So they mounted an operation to do with drink driving. People arrested, you cannot even, people dressed like you are, people looking like I don't know what, professionals. People would come and say, we've made our money, we have to spend it. But you've made your money, you go and drink yourself silly, and you kill pedestrians and riders on the road simply because you made money. So I'm saying some of these things are failed by big people in government themselves, and people we think should be contributing the well-being of Ugandans. No jira mun right yo muntu kufuna bond yarga kutomera omuntu asinzire hariya yamwita. Omuntu ayikorira kiboke yekameneke naza kugiguza ngo abukuyo kakora sente nonywa noenda kuvuga. Hata bayomba jangu EPS eberekire ngo abukuba ABCD. It is somehow political. I'm told some people are saying ngo bwiro buti yontuza muno bwa campaign mube murekere kukikosa ntiza kwitobururu. You can just imagine. Hata abantu kuba rafe oratera karuru no. Then also to do with health banyaji. Annually Uganda needs about 560 something billion dollars okugura some of these essential drugs and medical equipment. Konka last year alone in January, Uganda ka destroying emibazi worth billions of shillings because they expired, including ARVs and testing kits. Hat you can imagine abantu bayono bafasirimu abo butajira ARVs, and at the same time muliono mwotie mbazi we are expiring. What is the rationale? I mean, what is the logic behind that? So to you to run with the health sector is underfunded. Konkane sentes kutamu muliono mzishish. Does it need someone to be a rocket scientist? Okumanya ngweje mbazi yako reji twajereza abantu aba in time. Abantu nubashereke mbazo marwaro, abantu babona I don't know for what. So before we look for money here and there to put in the health sector, kuonjero budget ya health sector tubanze turebeze tukutamu ntuzikonsatu. Because you are putting this money there and at the same time you are destroying it. Mwene chitu yontu just no cause sobgongo. Buche bwo kuboyi newo. Of course, I was saying we needed economists to help us in this show. We need scientists to talk about COVID and what to guide us. Hati nutuetaga just abantu kuplanninga bakamanyangu. Kutetu ateke sente zo education. How is it being used? Because we know there's a lot of money being wasted. So all in all, as I give my brothers here to chance to also to give their contributions or their conclusions.
Yes.
We have money, but we don't know how to use it somewhere somehow. Yes, some money is being stolen by individuals, but even the little money that we are left with, we don't know how to fully plan for it. That is the only problem. So we're going to get money from taxpayers, we're going to borrow money and make this debt very pregnant and all that, but if we cannot make good use of the money we have, it is not going to take us very far.
Peter,
Thank you.
Thank you, Sifa. Peter,
Yes.
the life expectancy, Ugandans are living longer. There is no doubt about that. But what is killing Ugandans at their prime is cancer, diabetes, cardiac arrests, name it. Has government
And you've forgotten something.
what?
Omwenge.
Yes, alcohol.
Omwenge,
Yes. Government intervention on stopping some of these causes or even reversing them.
No, you see, on Omwenge, actually, the people who are in the drinking community, I want to say congratulations. Because in this very budget, they have reduced some taxes for you on Omwenge. Yes, they have. Yes, they have. So it's very bad because actually they should tax
Is
more.
the alcohol
Yes.
is the cause of all these diseases?
Exactly. No, it is the cause. Actually, let me tell you. I wanted to say in answering your question that the things you've talked about, cancers, diabetes, are called lifestyle diseases. And I don't want to blame President Museveni. This time on this, because I'm speaking as a scientist, I don't want to blame President Museveni. I don't want to be political. Because the guy, the other day mukamureba nakora press-ups. You saw him doing press-ups, running in his sitting room. They tell us President Museveni wakes up at 5, starts calling that Mzee, he calls his men, the IGP, the CDF, give me situation reports at 5. But most of us youth, you want to wake up at 10. And when you wake up at 10, you want to switch off Ratomenta and Second Chance and our series from the Americans, the 24 season. You watch the whole season.
They are now watching Straw.
There is Straw. I didn't know about that.
Yes.
Now, the diabetes you're talking about, the life expectancy you're talking about is because of our lifestyle. Physical inactivity. The Ugandans don't want to walk. Just walking helps the body a lot. That every day I will wake up and walk 2 kilometers. Go and come back. In the evening, I will walk 1 kilometer. That helps your body too much. You wake up, those who are not sleeping, others are in offices. You wake up, you sit in the chair, you get out of the chair, you sit in the car, you drive, you go home, you reach home, you go to bed. that is very dangerous. And then those who are not physically inactive, they are on beer, they are on pork, they are on fast foods, chips, chaps,
but you see, you
chicken.
Forget the role
they
of
are on
government.
Chikommando.
You see,
they are on Chikommando and Rolex.
Mr. Peter Mpaka, government has a responsibility. You see,
No.
wait. The same way you and your wife and children, I mean, responsibility to guide your children.
Yes.
Is the same way the state has a responsibility to guide our people, because they wouldn't have the Uganda Cancer Institute, the Uganda Heart Institute, if at all they knew, well, Ugandans are irresponsible and they're ending up in these facilities because of their irresponsibility. There are children that are dying of cancer.
Mr. Banyaji,
Are you now going to blame
on
it
that
lifestyle?
on that very note,
Yes.
Mr. Banyaji, Uganda is blessed with a teacher, a philosopher, and a good president, President Museveni.
Yes.
If you have closely followed his teachings right away, he has always been steadfast and focused on teaching Ugandans on lifestyle. Even he tells us what to eat, how to eat it, how to live sensitive lives, not just reckless, and how to mind about our lives. I am very sure that even on this Cruise FM, you have some adverts from him talking to the public, giving message of encouragement. But the challenge we have is that we have some people who are ideologically bankrupt, and then we have also another group who are being misread. You find that when the president is speaking, even if the president has a good message to the public, someone says, ogotwamukowa tetumurira ebyo bya president.
Okay.
Let me answer that question just briefly. I want to tell the listener, Musa Twatansaya is trying to become political. The
But
president,
this is a political talk show.
no, yes, it's a political talk show, but we also have segments where we have to teach our people and tell them the truth. So I want to say something.
Conclude,
I want to say
quickly.
something that the president, bad as he is, there is where he has told us about lifestyle. And I want to tell Ugandans that don't be careless. For me, this I take it personal. When it comes to life, your health,
Okay, you've
don't
reiterated
be
that.
careless.
Yes, Edgar.
I want to disagree a little with my brother here, Mr. Peter. Mr. Peter needs to understand we are not some banana republic that we just have to listen because Museveni is doing push-ups. The arguments you're making are like the arguments we have heard about God, who tells you that he has good will for you, he understands the beginning and the ending, and at the same time that he can let all the evil still come and distract you. The president has the power, because partly some of these diseases are coming because of GMOs that are not so much grown maybe here in Uganda, but some from East Africa. In Kenya, they are largely acceptable. So the president has so much power beyond saying, you guys look at me, you eat kalo, look at maize. In terms of policy,
Aflatoxins are
yes,
in maize.
exactly, aflatoxins and all that.
That's a role of government.
Exactly, yes, on the phytosanitary standards to raise them and have them. So all these are roles. So you cannot look at this debate just from that angle. Look at what you're saying now. What you're saying here is like having a parent and you have kids that you're sure these kids will have sugar. Just verbally you tell them sugar is bad, but then at the same time you always buy kgs and stock them in the same fridge. It does not make sense. So there has got to be beyond. You have got to understand that the president's powers are beyond just giving us a TV
so
show.
the question now is, Mr. Mutonsa, how should Ugandans live longer?
Yes, so Ugandans have to live longer in two ways. One, there's a personal initiative that I'm talking about. But number two, yes, there's also a policy. The government has a role to play in ensuring that the quality of food in countries like Denmark, Mr. Energy, not every food makes it to their market. Not every food makes it to their market.
Yeah, we know very well that there are products that have been rejected in Europe and the Gulf because of quality from Uganda, and it's the governments in those jurisdictions that are saying this quality of food will not make it to our economy. And simply because they think it's not good for their people.
That Omunya-Uganda wa bulijjo does not access those type of foods you're talking about.
That is not
true.
That is not true.
The canned meat,
That is not
the canned
true.
meat, Abanya-Uganda, let me tell you, we are dying of recklessness.
But
Whether
if at all
meat,
butchers,
nyombuza,
are using formalin to preserve meat, And ordinary Ugandans
Arrest
buying
that
meat.
one. Why don't you arrest that one?
Who is
So,
to arrest?
But let me ask you. No.
On
How many?
752-912-912 and 780-912-910. We are going to the lifeline of the show. The telephone calls and the feedback on our social media handles. Benjamin Kazora is saying, good morning to the team here. I think government should ensure that trickle-down theory and at the same time fight corruption. Otherwise, we shall have a small portion of the budget being implemented. Thank you, sir. Mbogo in Canon Kazo, you're saying before introduction of the national budget, did Uganda pay its debt to the World Bank? Thank you. And I am Abaho. Edwin, you're saying...
Point on 3 things. One, the 72 trillion budget does not make sense to us because it is not realistic. There is no way how you come from 52 trillion a budget in 2023-2024 and then you come to 72 trillion in the previous financial budget and this one. It does not make sense at all. So those figures are just exaggerated for purposes of serving some interest of some other person. My second point is that the Minister of Finance, Matia Kasaija, of course, mentioned that Uganda is at take-off stage. And he has these funny comics when he's talking about serious economic matters. For you to be at take-off stage, we expect to be having a rapid economic growth. This is according to WW Rosto. We need to be having a rapid economic growth. We need to be seeing a shift from agriculture-based economics to massive industrialization. So when you're talking about take-off stage and you have just given 1 million to an individual in a certain parish to buy 3-4 goats to start rearing, and you think that is a take-off stage, you are lying yourself. So that one is not correct. And then lastly, and this one is for Sifa, she's the one who normally talks about people who are not patriotic. So people in the Ministry of Finance, they rush to borrow money when they have not made feasibility study of some infrastructure projects. So you go and borrow money, you've not made a feasibility study, you've not compensated the people. Right now, we have like 14 trillion. That is the money that we borrowed and has not been put to use. But we are paying interest on that money because it is in debt. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Apollo Tumusime, for that very good contribution. On Cruise TV, Andrew Tumusime, you're saying the budget was passed by corruption, will take away a big chunk of the percentage. Greenwood Shaggy, you're saying you're in Canon Kazo. This budget for really was unfair. Tarema Hillary, you're in Riaga and you're watching live. I want to appreciate you so much. Let me pick one call and I go to the parting shots. The big set. Yes, good morning. What's your name and where are you calling from?
You're talking to Engineer Rogers calling in here from Kaizo.
Yes, please.
Now the government of Uganda, the way they are that proposed budget, I think it is not useful to us because how can we say that in every parish at least you want there a health center 2 or a health center 3 when you have just there a building without medicine in that health center? Now what will be the useful function of that building? Just to be there as a design what? If you say that you want at least every parish to be having a government school,
all right,
that government school that you're giving to every parish, it has teachers who are not giving enough to the students.
Oh, okay.
Even the students are the ones feeding the teachers. Now what is that? The government should at least pretend.
All right, you are appreciated. There's Chris, a lawyer at LDC. Chris, you're listening to the show. I want to appreciate you. There's a gentleman called Levis Mukamat Kwase listening to the show. I want to appreciate all of you that have been part of this conversation. You're the MVPs of the show. Let me pick the parting shot in a second. Each one of you, Sifa Safi.
Thank you, Banyaji. Thank you so much to our listeners for your contributions. But specifically, Mr. Paul Tumsima, thank you so much. And it was directed to me. You said I talk about patriotism, and there are these people who borrow money without clear feasibility studies, and they keep on paying interest on this same money even before putting it to use. That is right and absurd. That is why I said it is unfortunate that people buy medicines and equipment, then they burn these things and destroy them when some people would have used it. It's very unfortunate. But for me, I told you I'm not an economist. I think economists should be serious and specific about such things. That is why I was saying, if you're not empathetic, do not be a doctor, because you lead to deaths to people who would have survived. But finally,
safer time is first, right? Yes.
Yes, finally, Banyadi, I want to tell you that the economy is growing. That's right. But for people, I mean, when you talk about individuals, look at yourself where you are and make sure that it's you going to fight for yourself, not government. But this issue of people saying that PDM has totally been useless, I don't agree with it. I've talked to people one-on-one who have benefited somehow, but this is not going to be a game changer automatically. No.
Thank you. Musa, in a second, really.
In a second, government has provided
Speak to the microphone.
In a second, government has provided 1.8 trillions in agro-industry and has provided 1.059 trillions in PDM. Please, Ugandans, go utilize the money of PDM. Let us chase poverty away from our homes, and we enjoy the NRM government.
Peter,
I wish you the best.
Yes, Peter.
Thank you, West J, and to our great listeners who have been tuned in, and the economists, thank you for coming. For me, I want to ask the people of Mbara City North, Nyesimbere, Nimbashaba Karuru, Muterere Mpinduka. Number 2, you as an individual, don't live a reckless life. Banange. Try, exercise, control the things that you eat. We still need you around. We need a better Uganda. I don't want you to die before seeing the Uganda that NUP has been promising.
Thank you. Edgar Mtun, sir.
Yes, thank you so much, Manaji. To the listeners out there, I think I would like to thank them for the attention they gave to the show. But so my last, parting shots would be that I want to congratulate, Honorable Matia Kashaija. He was saying that we should commend him. I think, yes, he has done a commendable job. Now I think in things concerning health, it's now upon the ministers. We are waiting to see whether the 5 trillion given to health, we shall have issues with our medical interns not being, reimbursed for their services or something like that. So I think generally we hope for the best. And in terms of the lifestyle, I think, yes, we've got to have good lifestyle for the transport and APS system. The Ghanaians have got to be very careful with the road transport.
Thank you. Mr. Thomas Salita, recurrent expenditure in just a minute. Government, is government walking the talk? Because you have 529 members of parliament. You have RDCs, deputy RDCs, and assistant RDCs. You have a whole huge government. What should be the case?
Thank you, Mr. Wesige. Recurrent expenditure, for the purposes of the audience, is that expenditure that government makes every month, every year, like salaries, that's called recurrent. That's what is called recurrent expenditure. So that budget, even politics, that budget has been increasing. And by the way, if you look at the budget as it is now, that's the biggest portion of the budget. Although it has been, if I may use the word, hidden under the different
sectors.
Okay, these days, by the way, maybe let me also take this. Government no longer budgets according to sectors. If you look at the budget, it is, they call them programs: agro-industrialization, tourism, human capital development. So just that one program has several sectors under it. But if you go down to look at the composition of each budget, you see that there's more money on public administration and politics versus the investment in even the things we are talking about, like health. And if you go to the budget of Mbarara Hospital, you'll find there's more money on things like fuel and salaries versus
buying utilities.
Yeah. So government is not walking the talk, to put it shortly. And therefore, as a parting shot, actually, based on that, we may have, as a country, reached this point, and government celebrate it. We are moving into middle income and whatever. When you look historically, it is. I can conclude that it is generally by chance.
Okay.
To move away from this point, government needs to be more serious and targeted in approach for Uganda to to take the next step.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas Salita. Thank you, Mr. Edgar Mtunsa. Thank you, Ms. Sifa Safi. Thank you, Mr. Peter Mpaka. And thank you, Mr. Musat Kwatanuse. Thank you, Bright. We are the man that has been streaming us, courtesy of Creative Digital Media. My name is Wesige Banyaji. Have a fantastic weekend. Let's meet next Saturday. Good morning.
The views expressed on this program are not necessarily the views of this radio station or its